Hey, good morning. It's good to be back. Had a busy week, and we're in the book of Isaiah, which is a big book. It's 66 chapters. He was a major prophet, and the the thing with prophets. So in the Old Testament, there was prophets because God used them to help reveal sins in people, and now we have the Bible and Jesus for that, but like in the Old Testament, sometimes he would use prophets and also to tell about what is to come in the future. Well, again, the Bible is complete. We already know all about the future and what is to come. So there are no more foretelling prophets like that. After the Old Testament, there are no more prophets. Now, that doesn't mean that somebody can't come up and say, I have a word from God, or I have I believe that you're going to have many children. Sometimes, there's prophets that have certain feelings like that, but that's a different kind of prophet than the prophets in the Old Testament. And so if somebody comes and says, I'm a prophet and we're supposed to worship this or do something different, or there's a new word from God, that should not be true. That would not be biblical. There are no more prophets today. So Isaiah lived in Jerusalem, and he started off having a vision of God, of God revealing sins in his life. He saw God's perfection and holiness, and then he realized his own sin. And an angel actually took a burning coal from an altar and put to his lips. And he thought he was going to be, punished and burned, but instead it purified him. So this offering on the altar that touched him purified him. And so he said, here I am, send me to be a prophet for God. And so God used him, and he would go and prophesy to the people of Jerusalem and in that region. And God said that even though their hearts are hardened, speak to them anyway. And so Isaiah was able to see their sins, their rebellion, the idolatry, and he would confront them and say, if you don't change your ways, the consequences are going to be severe. And God is going to use other nations to conquer and hold the people captive if you don't change your ways. And there was a King Ahaz. He did not listen to Isaiah, and they were attacked. And then King Ahaz has sons, Hezekiah, and he did listen to Isaiah and humbled himself and even destroyed a lot of the idols. But then he went into he was kind of scared to just trust in God, so he went into alliance with the Babylonians and asked for their protection. And when that happened, they turned on them and they got conquered again. So they failed to listen to Isaiah. And Isaiah is also prophesying about the future, that there will be a new king. He calls him Emmanuel, which you've heard Emmanuel being a reference to Jesus. It means God with us. It's also called in the book of Isaiah, the servant. And this king is going to come, but he's going to be rejected by his own people. So some people are going to accept him and also become servants, and other people are going to reject him, his own people that will reject him as well. But a very important chapter in the book of Isaiah is chapter 53. If you don't know Isaiah chapter 53, you have to read it. You have to read it and realize that this was written 700 years before Christ was even born. Now, we know Christ was born. There's no dispute that Jesus actually lived and that he lived when he lived. The question is just, who was he? But how could Isaiah write Isaiah chapter 53 before 700 years before Jesus was even here and speak of him? And it's just so powerful that the Old Testament points to Jesus in the way it does. You might have heard, for unto us a child is born, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name will be Wonderful Counselor. That's also in Isaiah chapter 9. But chapter 53, please read it if you can.